All right, let's unpack this. Today, we're cracking open a really fascinating approach to truly knowing a community, from the inside out. We all have that desire, right, to really get people. Maybe it's a new team at work, maybe potential customers, or just connecting better with your neighbors. That's what we're digging into today.
Yeah, what's so interesting here is that the material we're looking at, it lays out this whole systematic process. They call it breaking the code.
Mm.
Now, it comes from a specific background, faith-based outreach, but the insights are actually, I think, profound and really universally applicable. Anyone trying to bridge cultural gaps or just understand a new environment can use this.
Absolutely. So, our mission for you today is really to equip you with some practical tools, yeah, but also a mindset. How to move beyond just assuming things, get past those surface chats, and really achieve genuine insight. And then hopefully engage effectively within whatever group or place you're trying to understand. It's all about a systematic way to get that deep community understanding. So, okay, if we want to actually break the code of a community, where does the material say we even begin? I was kind of surprised, honestly, by how much it stresses looking inward first. It makes it really clear. Code breaking is a process, a lifelong process. It's not like a destination you reach. It's ongoing. And it says it starts with self-reflection.
It's a really powerful argument, isn't it? The authors, they suggest that, well, a lot of initiatives might fail because the leaders or the organizations, they focus only on the outside stuff, the external strategies.
Yeah.
They don't get that internal clarity first. They use this phrase like building a monument, not a movement, which really highlights, the need for that deep self-understanding before you try to engage outside.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think, for anyone looking to connect deeply. The material argues that before you can truly get another group, you first need to understand your own core purpose. It talks about having a clear sense of what drives you, almost like a holy destiny is the phrase used, connected to your deepest passions, your convictions. Why do you think that's step one? Why is it so critical?
That's a great question. And I think it's because we often just rush into trying to understand other people, right? Without really getting our own motivations or what truly drives us. The source makes such a strong case for this internal clarity being, well, foundational. It even gives you these self-reflection questions like,
Yeah.
can you point to specific ideas or experiences that really connect with your sense of purpose? Do you have solid examples of when you've actually put this purpose into action and it worked? And importantly, do other people you trust, do they see and affirm this calling in your life? It's really about knowing your why.
Right, knowing your why. Okay, so once you've kind of got that internal compass sorted out, the next critical step, according to this, is to fall in love with the people.
Mm.
And the material just states it point blank. You can never break the code in a community if you are not deeply in love with the community and its people.
Yeah.
That's strong language. It's about genuine, profound empathy.
Yeah, it is strong. And it's not just about, like, having a warm, fuzzy feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's presented as a fundamental shift in how you see things, your whole perspective. There's this compelling story in there about a friend, Tim Vaughn, who was doing outreach work in Germany. He described how at first he'd think, oh, if only they did do things the American way.
Mm.
But after years there, it completely flipped. He started thinking, man, if only they would do things the German way. His own kids even started calling American bread Ludebrot, air bread, because they preferred the German stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That really shows a deep shift, doesn't it? A genuine love for that adopted culture.
That Tim Vaughn story, yeah, that really paints a picture, doesn't it? That switch from my way is best to their way has real value. That's a huge mental shift. It becomes about caring so much that you actually become an advocate for them, for that community.
It truly is. You care so deeply, you basically become their advocate. And this deep engagement, it's also echoed in some ancient wisdom that the material quotes. It emphasizes seeking the well-being, the prosperity of the place you're engaging with, recognizing that their success is actually tied up with your own. It also talks about becoming a repairer of broken walls, a restorer of streets with dwellings, meaning you're seen as someone who actively helps rebuild, helps improve things. And if you find yourself struggling, like if you're having a hard time genuinely connecting or caring for a group, the material actually suggests taking time for deep self-reflection, maybe seeking a change of heart, to really cultivate that connection.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is that it's about putting the community's needs above your own. The material gives this pretty radical idea. your personal preferences, they have to be laid on the altar and sacrificed for real connection. So what does this actually mean for us day to day? It's about letting go of what you like, what you prefer, to embrace what genuinely connects with them.
Yeah, this is a really core insight. It's not just about compromise. It's like a total reorientation of your purpose.
Yeah.
The authors argue that true connection isn't just meeting people where they are. It's maybe paradoxically sacrificing your ways, your established preferences, to genuinely embrace theirs. They contrast that famous prayer of John Knox, "Give me Scotland or I shall die," with a different kind of prayer. "Lord, help me die to self so that I can reach Scotland." So what does that mean in our everyday interactions? I mean, it's about recognizing that our comfort zones, maybe our preconceived ideas, they might actually be the biggest block to getting real insight and making an impact.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's really about radical adaptability, isn't it? And humility. The source basically says that true engagement means putting the community's needs, their context, above your own established ways. It kind of echoes that powerful ancient principle about becoming all things to all people, so that, by all possible means you might connect with some. This kind of self-sacrifice, for the sake of the people you're trying to reach, it's presented as just essential.
Exactly. And crucially, just before moving on from this internal work, the material adds this vital, maybe brief but important point: examining your leadership readiness. It really challenges us to honestly look at ourselves, assess our preparedness, to truly admit any areas where we might be, falling short, instead of just making excuses later. It's about making sure our internal state actually supports our external goals.
Right. Makes sense. So, okay, once you've done that foundational internal work, that self-reflection, that readiness check, then it's time to shift focus. Time to understand the community itself, becoming like the local expert. And this isn't just about crunching numbers, right? It's about deep experiential knowledge.
Indeed. Yeah, the material suggests starting with what it calls counselors from the context. And these aren't necessarily like official experts with titles. They're the everyday people who live there, who are part of the culture. Practical tips include things like inviting people over for a casual meal, or just hanging out in local spots, coffee shops, parks, wherever people gather. It's about making real connections with the people you want to understand.
And yeah, while hanging out is crucial, you also got to leverage the data, the official info. That's key too. You're advised to identify things like natural barriers, highways, rivers, things that might physically shape how the community interacts, map them out. Then yeah, dig into the data. Look at census information. Sites like census.gov, they can show you population segments, shifts over time, really useful stuff. And studying demographic information is also vital. There are organizations out there, like the Legal Center mentioned, or various agencies, that offer insights into age breakdowns, ethnic groups, historical changes in the area. Just comparing past and present demographics can reveal some really important shifts. And that gives you key insights for figuring out an effective strategy.
Beyond the data, though, it's about talking to the people who know. The material really emphasizes this. There are people in every community who know more than you know. To become an expert, you got to connect with them. This means talking to local government officials, maybe people on the planning commission, school board members, the Chamber of Commerce folks, teachers, police officers, healthcare workers. The list goes on. Yeah, and the source gives that example of Lake Ridge Church. Their team started by reading a county history book, studying a map, and just having conversations. Simple but effective. It also recommends specific questions to ask these local experts. Things like, what are the 3 best-kept secrets about this community? Or, who are 3 people that really love this community and understand the people here? Also, what changes do you see coming? What are some major events in this community's history? And maybe most importantly, can you tell me about any community needs that aren't being met right now?
Great questions. But again, don't just stop at the demographics and the formal interviews. You need to, as the material puts it, move beyond demographics and anecdotal conversations. How? By physically immersing yourself. Drive around, sure, but also get out of the car, eat at the local diners, shop at the local stores, socialize where people socialize. The material really stresses that this is, quote, ultimately the only way to get a feel for the people and the community.
Exactly. And the material also brings up this idea of observational walks, like intentionally moving through a community, just observing, reflecting. It suggests using this time to ask for insights. Like, how can I truly connect with the people in these homes I'm passing? What are their real needs? And even trying to identify what the source calls those deeply ingrained beliefs or cultural patterns. These are basically the historical things, the social dynamics that might, prevent a community from embracing new ideas or trusting outsiders. Looking at the history, the local industry, that can often give you clues there.
Okay, so we've covered understanding yourself, understanding the wider community through data and experience. Now let's get into the connective tissue, maybe, understanding the existing networks and those subtle cultural nuances.
Yeah, and this raises a really important question, doesn't it? Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel or create everything from scratch, how can we identify and maybe partner with the currents and forces that are already there in a community? The material really highlights this idea that, positive initiatives, existing energy, good things are probably already happening. Our job is partly to discover that and connect with it.
Right, it's about understanding the whole ecosystem, isn't it? The text actually says it's part of our job to connect meaningfully with those who already are relationally invested in the community. That takes being intentional. So this means figuring out who influences the people you're trying to reach. Think about local radio hosts, newspaper columnists, community leaders, maybe even just popular local figures. The source advises, hey, connect with these influencers, understand where they're coming from, and maybe even use their insights when you're crafting your own message or strategy.
And crucially, you need to find what they call bridge people. These are folks who have already existing relational networks. They're connected. And they can help your message or your initiative travel much further, much faster. The emphasis here is really on connecting within the networks that already exist, not just trying to build your own separate thing from scratch. It's about leveraging the connections that are already humming along.
And this idea extends to understanding the existing groups, too, and their cultural expressions. The material quotes an urban expert, Ray Bike, who apparently, when asked for help in cities, would say something like, look, most of what you need to know is already in your city. Would you be willing to go ask every civic leader in town, if you had to prove positive change is happening here, what would you point to prove it? It suggests looking for what's already working, what's already present.
Exactly. And to that end, the material recommends researching the various community organizations out there, mapping them all out, including different social groups, maybe even noting which ones seem to be growing and why. It also suggests researching successful local initiatives, contacting them, learning from them, what strategies worked for them, and connecting with this specific community. And maybe just as importantly, what didn't work, what failed.
Okay, then we get into the really specific cultural stuff, nuances. Things like musical preferences. What music do people actually listen to, not just what you think they listen to? What are the top radio stations? Do they connect with the same kinds of music in, say, a formal setting as they do just hanging out? The material quotes an author, Morgenthaler, saying something like, all the technique in the world can't produce genuine engagement. Quote, only when the heart is right will our message be genuinely attractive, a powerful connection. It sounds like it's about finding the right heart, the right approach, and then the music, or whatever cultural form, becomes a tool for that connection.
That's a great way to put it. And it's also about things like dress. Simple, maybe, but important. What do people wear for different occasions? What's the norm in successful local groups or gatherings? This helps inform the kind of environment you might need to create for people to feel comfortable and connect effectively. And leadership systems, too, that's important. Are people generally used to more centralized leadership, which might be common in certain professional or blue-collar settings? Or is it more participatory, maybe more common in other contexts, like white-collar or academic settings? The material notes that, yeah, there are universal principles for leadership, but how those get applied in specific places, well, that's often a cultural issue you need to understand.
And finally, understanding learning styles. How do people in this community typically learn best? Is it through mentoring? Classroom settings, small group discussions, are they more linear, kind of either thinkers, or more contextual, both hand? Do they respond better to storytelling versus, say, a formal lecture? These insights directly impact how you communicate effectively, how you structure any kind of program or message.
And across all of this, the material really stresses the importance of identifying all people groups in the area, not just focusing narrowly on one target group you have in mind. Learning about everyone who makes up the community. That leads to more effective relating, better communication overall, and maybe uncovering new opportunities you hadn't even considered. It's about seeing the whole complex picture.
So after all this, what does it really mean for you, the listener? It seems to be about becoming a more thoughtful, intentional observer and participant in the world right around you. This deep dive hopefully has laid out a kind of structured, comprehensive framework for understanding pretty much any community, moving beyond just the superficial stuff to make genuine, impactful connections.
Yeah, and it raises a really important question for each of us, I think. Are we actually willing to put in the deep work that's required to truly understand and connect? Or are we going to settle for just, surface level assumptions? This material is a powerful reminder that real impact, it comes from deep immersion. It concludes by saying, look, it takes work to understand and reach a context. And frankly, most people won't take the time. They'll just keep trying what worked somewhere else or what worked in the past or maybe just what seems logical in my head, thinking if they just try harder with the same old approach, things will magically change.
Right. And while some people, as the material suggests, might break the code without trying just because they naturally align with a community, for most of us, that intentional effort is absolutely key. So maybe consider this a challenge. How can you cultivate a more genuine connection, maybe even that love relationship with your community, wherever that is? Can you actually describe the culture you feel called to engage with? Maybe think about its music, its dress, its leadership style, how people learn. And based on all this, what kind of environment might you need to create or foster to effectively connect with your community? It really all comes back to that intentional, deeply informed connection